Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We're going to do an Ethiopian Opal from start to finish. I'm specifically hunting for a stone that's got red, green and blue, the Christmas colours, since that's coming up. Ethiopian Opal is a very good way to get those colours and very crisp and clean. Or at least that's what we're going to hope for this one. You can see here that it's already been fairly chipped at and a lot of the dirt crust has already been taken away. That's good because that's step one. I always do it with something like this, a little metal pick. But this one's already been pretty well scrubbed for me, so what we're going to do next is have a look with the lights. So just quickly, we're looking at it with Riley's gem torch and just having a look for any deep pockets of sand where it's going in a long way, of which I can see not too much, and any cracks. The cracks are the important part. So with Ethiopian Opal, if there's any splits, you've just got to snap it along that line with your fingers. So yeah, not a lot of cracks that I could see, not a lot of dirt. Some little pockets around here were going in a fair way, so we'll just have to carve those out. That's okay, we can get through it. You can already see that the green is really peeking through, and from this end, I'm really hoping that those blues, greens and reds stick around. It's super bright, but hopefully we get a carve and hopefully we get a dry. Of course, I'll go through all the drying secrets and everything as per usual. So hopefully you guys can do the exact same thing if you follow along with this video. So let's dive right in. So just being a little bit sneaky here at the start of the carve, I'm doing it a little bit dry actually, so I'm just tapping a little bit of water on the outside. I just want to get a little bit of this crust off and just get a feel for how quickly it's going to come off. Pretty quick and muddy, so I'm not overly worried about it. Chuck some more water in. You'll see here though, I'll dunk it straight in. I never like to cut dry. I feel like you can cut dry, but you definitely need some sort of extraction and dust trapper. So here I'm just doing a little bit and then yeah, just deciding, nah, these aren't massive deep pits. And before the opal soaks all the way through, you'll get through a lot of this anyway. It's very fast to carve, very soft material. It does make it incredibly punishing though, so you'll see in this carve, I rush it a little bit too much. I should have spent a little bit more time from the 600 grit to the 1200 grit novas, and I have left some scratches unfortunately in the final product, which I'll go through, and I want to rework this stone anyway, as you'll see towards the end why. But yeah, just getting this sintered diamond, you'll never see me use anything lower than a 600 grit sintered diamond on this. I find that it's already aggressive enough. This opal is very prone to chipping, so it's good to be gentle on it. You don't want it to overheat, nothing like that. The 600 is an incredibly gentle burr for what it does. It will remove the material pretty rough, pretty ruggedly, much more than something like a 80 grit Nova Point. But it is actually quite gentle, much more gentle than something like an electroplated diamond burr where the diamonds are sticking outside of the surface. It actually removes material really quickly and can cause chipping. So you want to go with the sintered diamond burr. The 600 I think is well and truly enough. You can see here it is just chewing through it. Chewing through it like mud. This is not what would happen if you were working on a harder opal, but because they are so soft, the 600 it's plenty. I've never found myself wanting to upgrade. You might want to rush it a little bit more, but it's really not worth it, because every time you do a chip or anything, or you create a crack or any kind of imperfection because of the rough handling of it, you're going to regret it. It takes a lot more time to fix something than to get it right the first time. So you can see here, I'm just working away on all of these inclusions. The 600 will be used until all the inclusions are gone. After that, you'll just have a look at the stone and then decide on a final shape and then get that shaping correct. And then you're pretty happy after that. But you can see here there's some really deep inclusions, which is a bit unfortunate in some streaks here and there, and on the good side of the opal. The other side has a lot of potch, as you can see, but this side actually has quite a good amount of precious opal. Here I'm just having a look at it. You can see how far the water's soaking in now, so it's getting in, but that cloudy section in the middle, that's still not got the water sucked all the way into it. But you can see I have gotten rid of most of the inclusions, and that's when you jump over to the Nova points. This is the 280 black, that's where I start, but I go from 280, 600, 1200, 3000, 1400, and then the 14,000 and then the 50,000. Thanks to Suva for restocking me. We should have the next batch in the store very soon, so it'll be up on the roysrocks.com website for all the Aussie buyers to get some cheaper than usual Nova burrs. And you can see here, you just want to hit the whole surface. Like I said, I spent a lot of time on the 280. The 280 is fine. I should have spent more time on the 600 and more time on the 1200. Also, I should have really focused on the side that had the precious opal rather than focusing on the whole stone. Because it's a very wild carving with a lot of ups and downs and nooks and crannies, it's a long time to get a good polish on this because of all the stages you have to do. And I do want to try just using aluminium oxide. People don't really advise using the metal oxide powders, but I think on this one I could get rid of those last little tiny imperfections and stuff with the aluminium oxide. It does chew away pretty quick. You just got to be careful of not getting any of the aluminium oxide soaked in, because it is a very fine particle size. And I don't know, I'm not 100% sure, but there is a chance that the Ethiopian Opal could soak that in a little bit. I think if I pre-soak it first, it'll be worth it, but I'll give it a try later. Alright, so that's done up to the 50,000 Nova. You can see here it's still very transparent, fully soaked through. Hopefully it's pretty well polished. I reckon there's going to be 3 areas that I'm going to need to go over again, but they're very hard to see when it's wet, so I'm going to dry it up. And we'll go through the slow drying method. I haven't had one crack since starting to do this, so it's basically I'm just going to dry this off and chuck it in a Ziploc bag with some tissue, and then we'll chuck some desiccant in to give it that last little dry. But first off, I'm just going to give it a wipe up and we'll have a quick look at it. So that's it, a little bit dried on the surface. Now I can feel that it's starting to try to stick to my fingers a little bit, so I don't want to handle it too much now. We're going to quickly chuck it in the bag after having a look at the light playing across the surface, and it looks like it's not a terrible polish. I reckon there's a couple zones that are going to be an issue. I reckon this end is one of them. But we'll let it dry now and see what we end up with. We should see all the colour come back, and we should see that it's far less crystally than it is now. So there it is there in the tissue. We're just going to keep it visible and just put it straight in the bag. I want to be able to see it, and there you go. We're going to close this up, and that'll just lock in a little bit of that humidity and hopefully not dry it too aggressively, because it's starting to get real hot here. So flash forward to when it's dried. Okay, now I don't want to handle it too much because it's an Ethiopian Opal and there's a little bit of sweat on my fingers, but you can see here the greens, the blues, the reds, they all come through. Absolutely wonderful. Now, it's probably not fully dry. It's been about a day in this slow drying process, but it's not going to change too much more now. You'll notice that it's very milky coloured. So if I get the colour to disappear, an angle where the colour's a bit faint, there we go. You can see that it's pretty milky. Now that is from this. So on the other side, there is still some potch, just some colourless material. You can see it's got a very sharp line here where it sticks up. Now it would have been good to carve this off, but once the stone soaks through and this becomes fully transparent, it's very hard to tell where the potch is and where the colour is. So instead what I'm going to have to do is mark this entire area and then chop this off. And then I think I'm going to flatten this back and maybe try my hand at doubleting with Ethiopian Opal. It's not a very common practice, I just want to see what it does. It's not the most gemmy stone in the world, it's of course very bright, as most Ethiopian Opal is. What you see in the rough is kind of what you get when you cut it. It's very good that way, very rarely directional, though there are some angles here where it kind of fades away. It's hit the festive colours, which is good just before Christmas. But yeah, I think I'm going to do a little bit more work on this stone. Basically just press this up against the flat lap until I can grind that caramel kind of milky part off, and then I'll probably double it with this side facing up. Should be an interesting little test. It's something I've been meaning to do. If you look in that top corner there, top left corner, you can see when my finger goes behind it. So it is a very crystal piece. That milk is just coming from this little milky patch on the back. Once gone, it should be pretty crisp. You can see with the blackish background right now, it's really going to leap out. So well worth doing, and I'm willing to play around with this piece. It's not worth a lot to me, so even if it all goes bad, it's worth it just for the experiment. But anyway, that was working a Ethiopian Opal from start to finish. Hopefully you learned something from it. It is very fun material to work with. It's very punishing for any beginners out there. Just because it's cheap doesn't mean it's easy to cut. Because it's fairly soft, the stages are really important to get right, and the more wavy it is, like this section back here, the more wavy it is, the tougher it is. And you can see, if you look carefully, there's a couple spots. I'm really hard on myself for this, but there's a couple spots along here that I've kind of missed in that milky section, and there's a couple scratches in there. Those kind of scratches would be going back to the 600 grit Nova to get rid of. Not too bad, but remember, it's very soft material. It disappears much quicker than some of the harder Aussie opals. So you got to be a little bit careful about that. And yeah, one thing that I didn't mention is that I saw a crack starting to form here at one point, and I just carved it right back with the sintered diamond, and it never came back. I think I dodged a bullet on that one, because once cracks take hold in this material, it's most of the time game over. You just split it along that crack and you keep on going. But yeah, really nice piece. Pretty happy, but plenty more to go. Maybe not before Christmas. I might see you guys in the new year. Hopefully I'll get one more video out, but yeah, it's going to be the busy time of year. Here's one last look at the nice little Christmas colors in this stone.